40% of the cartilage in her knee was already gone. The scan read, bone grinding closer to bone, damage that doesn't grow back. And yet, just weeks before, she walked normally, climbed stairs, lived her life without a second thought. Inside, the cushioning was thinning, inflammation quietly spreading, joints stiffening long before the pain had a name. Months slipped by unnoticed, each step wearing things down a little more. This isn't rare. It is happening in thousands of bodies that still feel fine. This story reveals how it builds in silence and what might have slowed it or even turned it around. She didn't notice the beginning. It started as a quiet heaviness in her knees after long days. Nothing dramatic, just a dull reminder that she had been on her feet too long. She blamed it on stress, on work, on getting older a little faster than she expected. At 42, she still felt young in every way that mattered. She moved quickly, took stairs 2 at a time, carried groceries without thinking, laughed easily, slept fine. There was no moment that screamed, "Something is wrong." Only whispers. A slight stiffness when she stood up after sitting too long. A brief hesitation before her first step in the morning. A feeling she couldn't quite explain, like her knees needed a second to wake up. So she ignored it because life was busy, because nothing truly hurt, because it all still felt normal. But inside her body, something else was unfolding. The cartilage that once cushioned her joints, smooth, thick, protective, was slowly thinning. Not tearing, not suddenly failing, just quietly wearing down, like the sole of a shoe you don't check until it is almost gone. With every step, the space between her bones narrowed. With every day, inflammation built gently in the background, not loud enough to stop her, but steady enough to change things. Her knees were aging faster than the rest of her body, and she had no idea. Months passed. Then one morning, she felt it more clearly. Not a pain exactly, but resistance. As if her knees didn't want to cooperate right away. As if movement had to be negotiated. She paused, waited, then continued. Still manageable, still easy to dismiss, until small adjustments became habits. She began choosing elevators over stairs, not consciously, just automatically. She avoided kneeling. She shifted her weight more often when standing. These are tiny changes, but barely noticeable. But they added up. Her wall didn't shrink all at once. It tightened slowly, quietly, without announcement. Time kept moving, and so did the damage. By the time the first real pain arrived, it didn't feel sudden. It felt overdue. This was a sharp reminder while climbing stairs one evening. A deeper ache that lingered longer than usual. A stiffness that didn't fade after a few steps. This time, she noticed. This time, she couldn't brush it off. But by then, the story inside her joints had been unfolding for years. Cartilage reduced, inflammation sustained, movement patterns altered. Her knees hadn't just started hurting, they had been wearing out early, long before she ever felt it. That's the part most people miss. Joint degeneration doesn't announce itself in the beginning. It builds quietly underneath normal life. You can feel strong, capable, completely fine, while the structures that support your movement are slowly losing their resilience. By the time pain becomes clear, the process is already advanced, and it is easy to believe that is when it all started. But it isn't. Her story is not unusual. It is happening in bodies that still go to work every day, in people who still exercise occasionally, in adults who think they are just a little stiff or a bit tired. The absence of pain creates a false sense of safety. But the body keeps track of everything: load, movement, recovery, inflammation, whether it speaks up or not. And over time, those silent changes shape what the future feels like. For her, the turning point wasn't the pain itself. It was the realization that her body had been signaling her long before it ever forced her to listen. That the stiffness wasn't random. That the hesitation in movement wasn't normal. That feeling fine didn't always mean everything was functioning well underneath. She began to see her knees differently, not as something that suddenly failed her, but as something that had been slowly asking for support. That shift changed everything, because once you understand that joint health isn't lost overnight, you begin to see that it isn't restored overnight either, but it can be influenced gradually, consistently, intentionally. She didn't try to fix everything at once. She started paying attention to how she moved, to how long she stayed still, to the patterns she had ignored for years. She created space for her joints to recover, not just to perform. She reduced the quiet, constant strain that had been wearing them down. She supported her body in ways that felt small at first, but meaningful over time. And slowly, things began to change. Not instantly, but noticeably. The stiffness softened, the hesitation reduced, the sense of control returned. Her knees didn't feel young again overnight, but they felt supported. And that made all the difference, because her story was never just about pain. It was about timing, about what happens before the obvious symptoms, about the silent phase most people live through without realizing it is happening. And the truth is simple. The body rarely breaks without warning. It whispers first. It adapts quietly. It compensates until it can't anymore. And by the time it demands attention, it's already been working overtime for a long time. Her knees were wearing out early, but they didn't have to keep going that way. And neither do most people who are still in that silent stage right now. The stage where nothing feels urgent, but everything is already in motion. If any part of this sounds familiar, you might want to take a moment to check what your body has been trying to tell you. I left something simple in the YouTube description of this video that can help you do that. Thank you for watching.